Before each one of my live prophecy seminars, I give some of my testimony events that have happened where Jesus has interacted with me, and I've been sharing that. Now I want to share one event that took place in the March of 2011. What you're looking at is one of my posts, my prophecy posts. This is my older one, BibleProphecyMan.com, which is still up, by the way. And I want you to take a look at the date because I put this post up March the 9th of 2011. And I covered a host of different topics relating to Bible prophecy and current events, but I'm going to center in on what's highlighted in blue, where I say in this post, another major earthquake / the curse continues, March 9th, 2011. So what I was talking about, as you're going to be seeing, is people who come against Israel, they have some nasty things happen to them. It's called the curse. And so let me just scroll down. I'm going to read to you verbatim what I said on March the 9th. Prophecy sign, Matthew 24:7, great earthquakes. Does anyone remember the red flag I left up from my January 18, 2011 post? This is what I wrote you back then. Prophecy sign, about a week and a half ago, I wrote you warning you that another huge earthquake was on the way. In that post, I stated the following. You may be wondering why the red flag is up. Now, I'm going to stop it there for a second, because if you haven't been to my website, you wouldn't know how I interact with the people who are coming to my website. But the people who do come to my website, when they see the red flag go up at my site, this is a warning signal. This is what the Lord has placed on my heart. I'll issue the red flag, and that's what you see here. That's what I put up on this post. So let me continue. This is to warn you to watch for another huge quake to hit. If the birth pangs are getting worse, we should start seeing even bigger quakes, the great quakes. In Luke 21:11, Jesus warned the following, and there will be great earthquakes in various places and famines and pestilence, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. I am going to keep the red flag up because you all need to see that Christ's words should not be taken lightly. We are in those end time birth pangs, and you will see more of these huge quakes in the near future. Christ wants you to believe in him, but much more than that, he wants you to receive him as your Lord so he can keep you from entering the 7-year tribulation. End quote. Now let me toss in the mix the Genesis curse of God upon anyone who comes against Israel. See Genesis 12:3. Now you scroll down, you'll see a map that I put up there. It says, here we go again, another huge earthquake today. And notice the date it hit, March the 8th, 2011. Then I highlight it in yellow. You will see why this is important as you continue to read. Now to make a long story short, what I've done here is I put the news in about the earthquake. It was that 7.2 magnitude earthquake, and I just quoted the news source from that day. And then I go on to talk about how Luke 21:11 also talks about the roaring of the seas and the waves. And then moving on to my quote, do you remember the date I told you to keep in mind? On March 8th, 2011, this news was also reported. Now this is where the Lord is speaking to me, showing to me and just penetrating my heart, showing me what's going on with Japan. So what I did is I posted this news about Japan. This is from March 8th, 2011 from the WAFA. It says, a handover ceremony today between Japan and the United Nations World Food Program, WFP, marks Japan's continued commitment to provide food assistance to the poorest of the poor in the West Bank occupied Palestinian territory. Japan's contribution of US 3.1 million comes in support of the Palestinian Authority, PA, Ministry of Social Affairs Social Safety Net Reforms Plan. Under this plan, the Palestinian people living in extreme poverty receive a food ration, a cash grant, and health insurance on a regular basis. The distribution of the food rations is ensured by WFP as part of the assistance to the destitute activity in close cooperation with the Ministry of Social Affairs in the West Bank. Now, for those of you who may not know, the Palestinian Authority is an organization run by Arabs who want to destroy the nation of Israel. They've been working for the destruction of Israel for a very long time. And even to this day, they do not recognize Israel as a nation. So they're definitely, and they have been, an enemy of Israel. So when you have Japan providing funds, and a lot of those funds now we understand had gone over to buy supplies to be able to attack Israel. Now when the Lord showed me this, I was immediately under the impression that I needed to warn the people, watch Japan. So while I'm sitting down reading this information, I hear the Lord saying the curse. So moving on, you'll see the red flag, Japan's red flag, and then in yellow, the earthquake hit the same day as Japan was giving funds to Israel's enemy. And I have a segment in my live presentation that is called The Curse of God. This isn't the first time that on the very day an enemy came against Israel that those enemies found themselves in massive destruction, whether it be weather, whether it be earthquake, whether it be through rioting. There's been a host of different ways we've seen the curse fall on the enemies of Israel. But in any case, let me continue on. It says, don't get me wrong. What Japan is doing seems to be an act of goodwill, but God is clear about coming against anyone who supports Israel's enemies. See Zechariah 12:3. I truly believe the Lord is sending Japan a clear message. If the Palestinians want to be blessed, all they have to do is become friends with Israel and the Lord will bless them. However, when you read Psalm 83, you will find that is not the direction that the Palestinians will choose to go. And in case you don't know about Psalm 83, that's a prophecy in the Old Testament that shows us the Palestinians are going to be involved in a massive attack against Israel in the last days. That hasn't happened yet. So this is what I was talking about when I put this sentence in there about the Palestinians. They're not going to be choosing to make peace with Israel. Let me continue. If you read Joel chapter 3, you will see the Lord warn that he would destroy anyone who divides up Israel. Japan is currently working to do just that. And you ask why Japan had a huge quake on the same day they aid Israel's enemy? Another section of this same report shows you Japan is working for a Palestinian state in Israel. In other words, they've been working, trying to divide up the nation of Israel. And then I go on, continuing with the quote. The Japanese government is determined to continue its support to the Palestinian people, said Mr. Nafumio Hashimoto, representative of Japan to the Palestinian National Authority. This support comes from a human security perspective as well as from its political stand for the Palestinian efforts to establish a viable, independent Palestinian state and to develop the capacities of the governmental and local institutions in providing basic daily services to people. And that was the end of that quote. And I go on to say, I hope Japan is getting the message today. Take a look at what has happened so far today in Japan. Now right below that statement that I just made, you'll see the red flag flying. And notice what I said there, because this is what Jesus had spoken to my heart about. And this is what I wrote. The red flag is still up. God's curse is not over. So I knew that something major was going to happen. I saw the earthquake. This was the warning. And I had to issue this because this is what it was pressed upon my heart to do. Now below this red flag that I just warned the curse is not over, what I did is I listed all the earthquakes that were taking place there in Japan. So in that one day there were 17 earthquakes. that took place on the same day, get this in mind now, the same day as this message went out about the Palestinians being supported by Japan. So again, the red flag is still up. God's curse is not over. All right, so I issued that warning on March the 9th, 2011. The red flag is still up. God's curse is not over. I want you to see what happened just 2 days later to Japan after I kept the red flag up and told them that the curse isn't over yet. I already explained why it was coming, and I told them it's not over. Now watch this. This is what happened 2 days later.
8.9 magnitude. Now we know that's a big number. It was the 5th largest earthquake in history. But you can only really understand the enormity when you see these pictures. An earthquake so strong it literally shifted the Earth's axis by about 25 centimeters. It all started at the epicenter near Sendai, 230 miles northeast of Tokyo. Shock waves that gave birth to a massive tsunami that started 35 minutes later, Saigai, the Japanese word for disaster.
That tsunami reached 23 feet high in some places, nearly twice the height of me standing on Chris's shoulders, for example. And that wall of water is primarily the cause of a death toll that is in the hundreds, but is certain to rise, with 88,000 people in Japan still unaccounted for. The tsunami is also what triggered so many fears in the U.S. today, as the entire West Coast and Hawaii went on alert. But tsunami alerts and warnings were not foolproof in Japan. The people there had little time to prepare, and even worse, few places to run.
It has SOS, helicopters, please land here.
So I think you get the message. Anyone who saw those videos on March 11th was stunned by what happened. Now, I do have faithful viewers that come to my prophecy site. And when I put up the red flag to warn the people that the curse was not over yet, and 2 days later, this 8.9 earthquake hit, and not only the earthquake did damage, but the tsunami did much more damage than the earthquake. People remembered the warning that I gave, and they started to talk to other people. And you can imagine what it did for my viewership. I had no idea how bad it was going to be for Japan. I just knew what I was told by Jesus. I put up the red flag like I was impressed to do, and because I did that, I am sure that there were literally thousands of people in different parts of the world who come to my site that maybe from that event they would pay closer attention to what Jesus says in his word, and hopefully through all that, many of their people may have even given their lives because they saw the warning come to pass. Not my warning. I was just the instrument to give this warning out to people about don't mess with the nation of Israel and believe my words. And I will say that after this warning went out and they saw the major earthquake that hit Japan, I had a lot of people email me telling me that God was speaking through me. And I would write back and just say I was doing what I was told to do. So as far as my testimony is concerned, I am very grateful to Jesus Christ for picking me to relay his message, the warning that was given. And then 2 days later, as a result, we saw this massive earthquake. And I know that many lives were touched. And I am very confident that when I get into heaven, I will see how many people this message, this warning actually affected, and people gave their lives to Jesus Christ because of the message that Christ relayed on March the 9th of 2011. Now, I could have dismissed the word that I got from the Lord and not put up the red flag and not say anything about the curse not being over. But if I did that, I would be afraid to miss out the blessings from our Lord Jesus Christ, knowing that if I dismissed his word, I didn't want to find myself in a position of not being used again by Jesus Christ. And to me, that was more scary to me than not issuing this warning that he had given to me. Each and every one of us are going to have to make a decision. When we hear that voice, what do we do? Do we act or we simply ignore it? Because if it is ignored and the Lord wants to get his message out, he'll just bypass you and go to the next person who will be the person who will say, yes, Jesus, I will do it.